Good morning, everyone. It is November 19th, 2022, and we are now here for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix free practice 3 session. Once again, this is Grash coming from you from the United States. It is, again, 5:15 a.m. in the morning on the East Coast, and the sun is not up yet. But that's not the case in Abu Dhabi. It's going to be hot. It's going to be dry. There's going to be no chance of rain. So that's your weather report um, for this weekend, and it's going to be this way the entire weekend. We are doing again practice 3. I believe we are going to see um, a little bit of it'll be during the day during this the light. So what you'll see is not necessarily going to be representative of what we'll see in qualification. Qualification is pushed back a little bit further under the lights of the track, and that's one of the things. Um, that unique to this track is it's going to be so much of a night race across this track when they actually race. Um, Bring up news right now. For those of you who are from the United States, happen to be up. FP3 is going to be on ESPN2. But it's then going to jump to ESPN3 and ESPN News for quali. And those who are following along F2, and we'll explain why F2 is coming up in a moment. The sprint race will be on ESPN3. So that's just for those who are just following along. That's where things are going to be. All right. So as we go forward, basically we've got the last race for Latifi, Ricardo, Schumacher, and Vettel. What we know now that basically Ricardo is going to be returning to Red Bull as a reserve driver and brand ambassador. Now, this is a little bit of new bits and pieces have just come up. Basically, Horner says that nothing has been signed yet, but Marco has said that it's going to happen. So that's where it is at the moment in terms of that where that is. That's just been reported earlier today. Nico Hulkenberg is going to be returning to the F1 grid, and he's going to be taking the seat that is currently that Mick Schumacher has. And unfortunately, Mick is not going to be here with the grid next year. We're talking about F2, and that's because the seat held by Nicholas Latifi right now will be taken over by Logan Sargent next year. And basically, we're looking at Logan Sargent. He's got to finish slated to take over a seat. He's supposed to finish in the top 6 in the F2 standings. So after this session, the FP3, F2 is going to have its sprint race. And then finally, you're going to have a 3 grid penalty. All right. Joining me right now is Biggles. Hi, Biggles. How are you doing, my friend?
Hello. You are correct as well, too, because I mean, it's a key thing, isn't it?
Oh, what are you talking about?
The situation with the F2, of course, with the super license with Mr.
Yeah,
Logan. Because if
yeah.
you look at the standings, right, he's in P3 by 135 points, but 126 points is Mr. Doohan. And P4, P5, P6, they're all equal 126 points, 123 there for Lawson. Then you go back to 117. So it's, a P3 to P6 outside the P6 could very much be possible. To me personally, as much as I would like, obviously, Doohan, who was second, to take that Williams seat, I think we need a US driver, don't we, in Formula One with 3 races next season?
Yeah, we need we need someone from the United States on the grid. And that's I think partly why Logan Sargent has gotten the seat over and you know what, I'll be honest with you, Logan looked better. So in FP1, the F2 champ did not look good in the car. He was the slowest, he was like one of the slowest on the grid. We've got Pato O'Ward coming over, and he's an IndyCar driver, and he was looking better than our F2 champion. So that the fact that Logan Sargent was he looked relatively good in the car on the grid yesterday as opposed to the other drivers makes it's a good choice for Williams. And again, Williams right now is it's a place where drivers grow, so that's another good place for him to go right now.
Yeah,
Having said that,
any Formula One is good, right? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so in terms of yesterday's quali session, Sargent qualified P6 on the grid. So that's actually a pretty good spot starting off going into the particularly the feature race. What's weird about F2 is that how I understand is that the sprint race that they're going to have today is essentially a reverse quali order, and then the featured race that they'll have tomorrow for the Grand Prix is the qualification order. So there's that going on.
That's right. And with the reason why we're talking about that, welcome everybody, of course, in the Racing Statistics channel. The reason why we're referring to F2 about that specific instance, of course, because it's crucial to the F1, because one of those drivers from F2 are going to be seated in the Williams team. We don't know who yet, but it's crucial about those points. And those points, of course, are
No, we do know. We know
conducted by the license, right? The license from the the FIA dictate the super license, and you have to have a certain amount of super license points in order to get your license. If you haven't got your license, you cannot race in F1, and that's what we're debating at the moment. Well, we're not debating; we're just calculating what can Logan get and what does he need in order to be in F1.
No. We know that if Logan Sargent gets the super license points, he'll have the seat. That we do know. We just don't know if he's got the points. And this was more relevant earlier in the year.
Exactly. You're right.
Yeah. Well, and this became relevant earlier in the year because we were talking about seeing Colton Herta from IndyCar coming over. Colton Herta is an incredible talent. Rough. He's a diamond in rough, basically. He's not. He's young and not fully consistent, but when he's on, he's going well. He is an incredible talent. So what happened is that
the problem is
AlphaTauri tried bringing him over. He just doesn't have enough super license points, and this is the guy who's won, which is crazy because this is the guy who's won races over in IndyCar, which is in the United States the top level open wheel racing here over in the United States and North America.
And the reason why, of course, you mentioned that is that because it doesn't calculate for the points. The points are once again dictated by the FIA, not the Formula One Media Liberty Group or any of those organizations with the IndyCar series. It's about the FIA in how they dictate their rules around the world. And once again, it's disappointing because he has the experience, he has the skills. He should definitely be in a Formula One car if teams want him. And if he could drive it, he could drive it. But unfortunately, that's the rules and that's the way the World Formula One Association runs. And things need to change, and then guess what? They are changed because breaking news as well too, saying that the Formula One and F1 Media Liberty Group or whatever in the United States of America is going to be conducting their own basically Formula 4 academy that they're starting up within the United States to then have their own Challenger series, which will be FIA supported. So therefore, rather than just having it all Europe dominated as it is currently at the moment, when you have to run your F4, F3 series and stuff like that, they're now going to bring it to the United States. The United States is now going to have their own challenge to allow everybody from the Americas to jump into these seats and battle it out and get the relevant points and licenses so they can get into F1. And it's a new chapter and a new adventure in Formula One now, isn't it? And America is definitely involved right now.
Very much so. I mean, I'm from the United States, and I'm someone who's relatively new to F1. I knew about F1. I knew about Monaco. I knew Nigel Mansell, but that was my extent of F1 experience up until about, again, I would say, 18 months ago. And then through various YouTube channels, I managed to find this channel here, and going forward into basically actually watching races. I mean, this channel basically got me watching the F1 races itself. So I want to give a thanks to the channel for that. And here I am now commentating with you guys.
Thank you very much, Racing Statistics. Of course, there's a man behind the scenes that does all this work, but he doesn't. He puts his what would you call it, statistics where his mouth is. There it is, and shows you all the fantastic pictures. Welcome along, everybody. King Cho, I've seen you before. It's been a fantastic, and as he mentioned there, loving Leclerc's metallic red helmet this weekend. This will be interesting to see. Of course, guys, you can just go Google, just type in Google Leclerc helmet, etc., etc. We all know we can't show you pictures. It's all licensed, but thank you much for listening to us. We'll try to give you as much information. The first time I've actually chatted with you at the moment too, mate. And it seems like you've done a little bit of homework and research, even from the United States. By the way, where are you from the United States of America? And of course, what we always do here at Racing Statistics, shout out where you are in the world.
Yeah. So basically, right now I'm coming from Connecticut, which is in the New England area which is the upper Northeast. I'm basically where I'm at right now. I'm in between Boston and New York City, leaning a little more over to the Boston side than the New York side where I'm at.
I've lived there.
The
capital. Before. I know what you are.
the capital of I'm like one town over from the capital, which is Hartford, right now. That may not be the case when we come back next year. I may be moving much further south to Texas. I'll find out in a few days.
COTA time. I'm coming to visit you then when it comes racing in COTA. Welcome, everybody. Belgium. A lot of Belgium. Fantastic. Germany, of course. Australia. Well, mate, bro, I'm Australian too, mate.
So as we wait for
UK, Scotland.
As we wait for FP3 to start up, you can see that we've brought up a map onto where the map of the world right now. If you guys type where you are in chat, it will ping that map, and you'll start showing up. You'll see things showing up. Yeah, wow. That's what's going on. Yeah, it's a new upgrade.
I'm loving this. I thought Racing Statistics would bring in Racing Statistics. Now it's like a GeoGuessr match as well. Even fantastic. Well, we all know we're going to be in Abu Dhabi right now for the finale of the Formula One final, obviously, free practice session here this evening. It's a very flat circuit, obviously it turns, and we've all experienced many races to the finals here. They're going to use the softest compound as well for the race. Whether they'll do it in a practice session, we don't know. Perth, Australia, I'm seeing lots of Australia. Mauritius, one of my best friends in Australia comes from Mauritius, so that's good to see different places around the world. Pakistan, Algeria, England, Radiator Springs. There's all your information up those dots there. Put them up there. I want to see everything. I want to see someone from Antarctica. I want to see someone from Greenland, Iceland. I want to see nobody here from Panama, where I'm located at the moment. That's the middle of South America. I want to see anybody from South America at the moment. There's a couple of dots. Brazil, Caribbean. It's fantastic, isn't it? And guess what? Yeah, we'll be getting ready for these cars. And what do you think, mate? Now, the typical setup for your free practice 3, is we going into a qualifying heavy load tire setup? What's the situation?
I'm not sure. I mean, basically, my expectation is that probably we will probably see at the beginning of the session more race runs, and as fuel gets burned off from those race runs, we'll then see mediums and soft used for quality runs later at the end of the session. The big thing that twists things is that we're doing this out in the sun right now, and the thing is, quali in the race itself won't be during sunlight hours. It will be during the night. It's a night race. So that is one of the big things. So what we'll see during this session is not going to be representative of what we're going to see later on in qualification and in the race itself.
So cooler temperatures, of course. So what does that mean? Do the mediums and hards? Obviously, they usually run mediums and hards during a race. You don't see softs very often, only during qualifying. Yeah. How does that change the dynamic of your tire temperatures?
Well, it's about tire degradation, basically. It's basically how long you can run that tire and how hard you can run that tire. With the temperatures we got on track, you're going to see tires. Basically, the temperatures are going to be higher in those tires, and that there's a point where you don't want to overheat your tires. And that's one of as you're pushing your tires, you do your hot laps, you're putting temperature into the tires itself, and that's one of the big concerns. And this is like when we go to like COTA, COTA, for example, is the big one. It's always a concern about tire degradation because of the heat itself, and that's that's again why we do COTA in November, is because if you did it in July, those tires would not survive a session.
Well, obviously, you wouldn't be doing this circuit here, of course, in the Arabian deserts. I've been here at Abu Dhabi before, the Arab Emirates, and it's hot, hot, hot. Of course, it's not that hot at the moment when you're getting into November, December. And Jose out there, thank you very much. He's like, is that Biggles? No, it's Glock. But unfortunately, it's not Brazil coming down to the final race of the season of 2008, I believe. It's just time flies, doesn't it, when you're having fun, of course. And just across the border, we're having a World Cup event that's occurring. It's still hot. Trust me, it's still hot here, but it's a lot cooler than what it would be if you were in June, July in this part of the world. But guess what? It's sad, isn't it? Because this is the final free practice session we're going to have for the rest of the season before we go in 2023.
Again, final session with Latifi, Ricardo, Schumacher, and Vettel. Again, Ricardo, we kind of have an idea where he's going. He's going to head back to Red Bull. Vettel is going into retirement, which means he'll be back at some point. If not necessarily. What's interesting, what's talking about Vettel is everyone is saying this guy will be back, not necessarily on the grid, but in some way with F1, maybe behind the scenes or with a team. Because one of the things that was remarked about is that Vettel was always with the engineers, working with the engineers late into the night. And so he's got that level of experience and knowledge of working with those guys and what's going on, so that later on he could come back with a team. And FP3 has just started right now.
Yeah.
Vettel is the first out on track.
Yep, the green flags are up. No, you're right, and you got to go back to the days, of course, when Schumacher retired. And I expect the same thing for Vettel, of course, and Schumacher was Vettel's hero, his mentor. And he stepped away from him. He's a family man. He's going to spend, I would imagine, probably spend a year or so away with his family. And then, of course, the bug, isn't it? That Formula One bug is going to kick into gear. And then he's going to be back there and supporting various teams that he would like to support in the future of Formula One. We all love Vettel. He's the comedian, isn't he? I mean, outside of Daniel Ricciardo, those two guys. Have you ever heard...
right now on screen they're showing
impression. He's brilliant.
Right now they're showing on screen on the that Vettel is fourth overall pole position, only behind Hamilton, Schumacher, and Senna himself. And that's an accomplishment. That's a huge accomplishment.
And I've met him, and they're showing off at the moment there Fernando Alonso as well, big smile on his face. And it's great. As you imagine the Fernando Alonso versus Sebastian Vettel days, of course. And both the Aston Martins are out there. And honestly, I think this is great. I think the other teams are actually allowing early into this 1 hour practice session a little bit of screen time there for the Aston Martins, and certainly screen time for Sebastian Vettel in honor of the fantastic work he has done over those many years supporting Red Bull. He's a young gun. He's always got a smile on his face, doesn't he? We love Sebastian Vettel. Obviously, there's moments in Formula One. Sorry for cutting you over a little bit there, my friend, but it is okay, what it is.
I'm doing the same to you as well.
Enjoy the moment.
So some takeaways from yesterday. Again, in FP1 we had 8 rookies. And the notable is that Liam Lawson was in Max Verstappen, came in, finished P5 on the session. He was only 0.5 second behind Hamilton's P1 time. So that's impressive. The other impressive rookie was Schwartzman, Ferrari's reserve driver, took P7. He was within a second of Hamilton as well. So so throughout the year, we've had these rookie drivers come in, the reserve drivers come in for FP1. But this is the first time is where basically we had the rookies really perform on track with everyone. The other performance thing with the rookies was in FP1 was Pato O'Ward, the IndyCar driver. He is from McLaren Aero SP, so this is in the McLaren family. He's in the IndyCar side of things, and so McLaren, and so basically we've got another huge talent from IndyCar coming over here and getting super license points basically for F1 as well.
I was talking to Lee Diffie. Of course, he's from Australia as well, too, the NBC lead caster for the IndyCar. I can't really repeat what he's mentioned because it was off air, and I don't want to get him in trouble, whatever. But we were definitely debating about some of those chats there. Unfortunately, he lives in Connecticut, so I can't have a golf game with him and talk about it. But being a fellow Australian from Ipswich, Australia, we were talking about a lot of the IndyCar situation and stuff like that. Obviously, he used to be a Formula One caster as well. But the Indy and Formula One merge is happening in lots of situations. Of course, now you have two US teams. Remember, in Formula One, you have Williams that are essentially owned by half of the F1 Media Limited Group. You've got the Haas team And of course, New York thinking about a Formula One GP, offering themselves land for a Formula One GP to make the fourth F1 GP. We need to see a US driver in Formula One. Unfortunately, as you said, Pato O'Ward doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but it's all about Mr. Logan as
Well,
in
Pato
the
O'Ward
F2
is
series. But free
Pato.
practice, yep.
Yeah, Pato O'Ward. The one thing about Pato O'Ward is that he is from Mexico, not from the United States. But having said that, he is in the United States. He's actually one of the more popular IndyCar drivers. But one of the things that's going on, we talked about so there's a lot of things going on with McLaren in the United States with IndyCar. So we know how Oscar Pulaski basically turned down Alpine in a spectacular way. If we go back about 6 weeks, we had Alex Palou doing the same exact thing with Chip Ganassi Racing. Basically what's going on with Alex Palou. So Alex Palou was the 2021 IndyCar champion. And going into 2023, Chip Ganassi Racing had an option to have him under contract one more year, and they decided to pick that up. Palou turned around and said that no, that's not actually the case. He was going to be he was not going to drive with them. Through legal proceedings and whatnot, it is actually he's going to drive with Chip Ganassi one more year. But what we know behind the scenes that McLaren was basically trying to pull him over to their side. And part of that is we know that the NTT Data, this is the title sponsor for the IndyCar, the league itself. This is the title sponsor. They were a sponsor on Palou's car and with Chip Ganassi Racing. And what we know now is that part of what's going on, why McLaren is able to do all this, is that there's the attraction of F1 being in F1 as part of the bigger family. And so they were trying to pull Palou over because of that. That was the hey, Dangle, you can maybe drive an F1. We know now that NTT Data has moved from Chip Ganassi Racing with Palou's car and has moved to McLaren. And we know at some point Palou is going to eventually sign with them. That's basically how things. So there's this weird shifting of the sand over the United States. With McLaren doing the man behind the scenes doing all sorts of things.
Yeah, you're right. And just back to the Formula One action for a second, because Carlos Sainz, of course, Jr. just set the fastest lap there. You guys have mentioned that a pretty good lap there coming out of the gate there for the Ferraris that haven't had the best of their season after they came out strong out of the gates. But a big smile there from Carlos Sainz Sr., his father there, of course, and he's a lot of experience, of course, in motor racing. And good to see his son there putting in a fantastic lap there. And so Mick Schumacher out on track, of course, and it's going to be sad to see him not in that Haas. Debatable, of course. We could talk about that until we go blue in the face, whether he should be in that seat or not next season. Unfortunately, he won't be. It is what it is. The Ferraris have come out in dominating force. Charles Leclerc, of course, is out there probably putting in a couple of purples there to represent his battle there with Mr. Carlos Sainz. And over to you guys to see this Mercedes return to form has been amazing, hasn't it? We saw a 1-2 from them. Are we going to possibly see Mr. Lewis Hamilton, the man that's won more races than anybody else on this racing grid right now, take his only first race victory, and this is the last time he can for the season? Can he do it?
It is potential. It was a 1-2 with Mercedes in Brazil. So can they do it here again? Absolutely. The question right now, again, they did do a 1-2 in FP1, but again, Max was not in his car in that session. So that's the asterisk on that. Russell, a quote from Russell is that the car felt fast, but he says that I think Red Bull are ahead of us in terms of single lap pace and maybe even more in the long runs. So that's where things stood yesterday with Mercedes on Friday. Right now, again, we've got both Hamilton and Russell on track right now with both of the Ferraris and Schumacher. Basically, we're seeing they spent the night trying to tinker with the car to get it faster. Will they get that? Will we'll know quality is where we're going to know, and we're seeing their first laps around the track right now. Leclerc just set a new fastest time with a 1:27.314, which is about 0.6 faster than 0.5 faster than his teammate.
Yeah, teammate. And I actually first saw it the time I've seen in the garage that Jack Inks, I think it is. I can't even pronounce his surname. I don't see that legend. He's a Formula One winner in the Ferrari garage at the moment. That's a very much a surprise, pulling out some of these big names in motorsports. I know you don't see the pictures at the moment, guys, but you don't see that very often. We're seeing a little bit of sparks flying, a little bit of moments there, but definitely Leclerc from Sainz and a Ferrari show. But of course, now Russell Hamilton about on track, and Russell and Hamilton are fast and quick. And Mercedes want to come back and end this one in a rampage. They want to be able to secure this, and you want to go down at the start of the season like this, like everybody's like, Mercedes washed, aren't they? That's it, they're out. But they're ending this season in a firestorm, and Lewis Hamilton versus George Russell for the fastest lap at the moment here for a free practice session. It's only free practice, but I tell you what, I don't tell these drivers that, because they are well aware it's game on between both the drivers.
Right now, Burks is setting dueling with fastest sectors. Hamilton's got a faster S1 and Russell has a faster S2 just by tenths. Russell just set a new P1 with a 1:26.530. We'll see how Hamilton sets. He's coming around. He is in his third sector right now. It's about 20 seconds from crossing the line on my stream here. And Hamilton on display just had a 1:26.040. So he's a half a second faster than Russell. So this is getting, things are getting interesting quickly.
There it is. He stole the first and third sector. Second sector went to George Russell. That is the early brewing, I'd have to say, for potentially what's going to be coming up after this, of course, free practice session. That's going to become a qualifying battle. Now, this is it. You're setting early statements, isn't it? It's shots fired out of the garage. It's only free practice, but you got to remember, these drivers are already setting statements early. They're like, all right, George responding with a quick lap. Hamilton coming back, responding with another quick lap. Hamilton wants to end the season at least with a race win. He doesn't want to have George Russell own him on points, and George Russell most likely will own him on points, of course, for this season. Probably the first season in a long time that Lewis Hamilton's ever been beaten since back to Nico Rosberg days. And all Lewis right now can do is win the race. He won't win the overall constructors with his teammate, but that's the way you fire it into next season, isn't it? But I'll tell you what, Mercedes are going to be battling each other.
There is a fight for P2, and that's one of the things that's going on right now, is that in the constructors, Red Bull has wrapped up the championship, but going down, P2, P4, P6, P8, there's a fight for every one of those positions, and for P2, it's Ferrari Mercedes with a difference of only 19 points. So this is again with Mercedes coming out doing P1, P2 right now. Again, in the first 15 minutes, they're putting the flag in the sand, saying, "Hey, come match this if you can." Basically, to Ferrari.
A lot of money up for grabs, isn't it? Because you got to remember, in the constructors championship, it's your piece of the pie. The Formula One pie is X amount of money that is there, and it's divided by P1, P2, P3, P4, and the constructors and stuff like that. So there is a lot of money up for grabs. Regardless of what the drivers get, it's all about the teams.
So again, with the top three teams, the money is less of an issue because they're hitting that cost cap barrier. But when we get down to P4 and below, it becomes a bigger issue. It's a big benefit for the team as they get more money. Like again, let's just go through that quickly. At P4, we got Alpine and McLaren fighting over. It's a 167 to 148 difference of 19 points. Advantage here, Alpine, and this is because the top three teams are fighting it out, and most likely are going to be filling up those top 5 spots. When we get to P6, we've got Alfa Romeo and Aston Martin, difference of 55 to 50 points, difference of 5 points. Advantage right now seems to be Alfa Romeo. They had a very good session yesterday with P1 and FP1 and FP2. They seem to be on their game, and if things are going well for them right now. But is again, who shows up for the race? And then we got P8. We've got Haas and AlphaTauri.
Yeah.
Which is a 37-35 difference of 2 points. anyone who takes seventh, eighth, or seventh or above, will win this for their team. And just to put this in perspective, Haas is only 13 points behind Aston Martin and 18 points behind AlphaTauri. So if something crazy happens, they could jump more than just they could be jumping into the P7, P6 battle. If they do, AlphaTauri is 15 points behind and 20 points behind Alfa Romeo. So now, having said that, both of these teams struggled yesterday. Gasly saying that he commented that the top 10 are, quote, top 10 are quite impressive in terms of speed here. I'd say that we're still far off in terms of pace. Yesterday, Kevin Magnussen had floor damage in both of his sessions, and that basically, this is one of the things that's going on this season is that the floor is extremely important because of the downforce that the cars are now producing this year that allowed for the first time in almost like 30 years. So the fact that his floor was damaged, and he also hit traffic as well, slowed him down. Schumacher basically struggled all day as well. He was out in FP1 for Fittipaldi, but in FP2 he struggled in that as well. So these are two teams they've struggled all year long in particular ways. It's bragging it is for them. It's bragging rights in prestige that they can get that P8 or higher if they can.
You're exactly right. This is key. It's not one of those, championship battles now. Who's going to win like we've had before in the past, of course, coming down to the wire. Who's going to win the Drivers' Championship? Now, exactly as you mentioned, it's the focus on the mid teams. Who's going to get those crucial points to get a little bit more money and stuff like that? I mean, obviously, we have to say, with the McLaren duo of Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, like two great drivers, you think, okay, you would kind of almost predict that McLaren at the start of the season should be a solid P4. They're not.
And that
you have to predict Aston Martin with a powerhouse of the experienced Sebastian Vettel there, Lance Stroll with the Firenettes, of course, they're building the new factory there next to Silverstone. They're not performing exactly what they have, but they picked up the game there. Alonso and Ocon have been delivering great performances there for the Alpine team. It's all shaping itself around Haas, of course. You didn't even expect a Haas to be on pole a couple of weeks ago, but it happened. So yes, this is now the crunch time for the constructors, and that's what I'd be loving to enjoy and endure for the final race of the season here. That's what you want to look at. Drivers and constructors already wrapped up and all that sort of jazz. Exactly who's who at P2, P3, and all that is still debatable. But the constructors is the one you need to look at right now as Formula 1 fans.
So right now we've got Alonso and Sainz setting new times. Alonso going at P2, the 126.292. Sainz now in a P3. Now jumps to P4, 126.384. Now Leclerc is set a P2 of 126.095. And Arcon now into P4. So just to bring up what just happened, Ferrari and Alpine just set some times. Leclerc second, Alonso 3, Ocon 3, Sainz 4. Vettel just jumping up with a new time of 126.524, and Stroll with a new time of 127.430. So Vettel in 7, Stroll in 9. Ricciardo's on the board at P8, and this is what Ricciardo is a top 10 driver, but hasn't had a top 10 performance really up until like one or two races, and that's been like if you've been a McLaren fan all season long, this is like Ricciardo's performance is driving you up the wall, and that's unfortunate.
Now, Grash, the first time we casted together, my friend, this is the thing. I don't know how many times, and thank you everybody for tuning in. Of course, some of you might be familiar with me casting some of the times this season for racing statistics during the practice sessions and so forth. I don't know how many times I've seen Alonso in the top 3, top 4, top 5 during the practice sessions. What goes wrong with Alonso's pace when it comes to qualifying? Because he just can't deliver that top 3 qualifying performance. That's just a question out there, as we have many questions going into 41 minutes and change, and starting to see Norris and the likes of the Alfa Romeos and stuff like that. And finally, we're going to start to see those Red Bulls out on track. That's a question for you, actually, for the first time casting, if you may. Why is Alonso so fantastically quick during free practices when it comes to qualifying? Can't deliver the results.
I mean, this is a question of why is Alpine in fourth? I mean, in the P4 P5 battle. I mean, it's basically, I mean, they've improved. I mean, Alpine has improved from last year. That's the first thing I'll say. But there's been moments where Alpine has not been consistent, and they've suffered for it. I know there was like several races early on in the year where basically the engine just gave out. Alonso was doing well; he was in the top five, and then the engine gives out. And there's really not much, those are the things you just. And the other team that's had similar issues has been Ferrari. There have been times where Leclerc or Sainz have been, they were doing well, doing great, and then engine gives out. We saw, one of the times where I think it was a free practice where Sainz the engine gave out and the car was on fire. So, I mean, there's not much you can do there. Again, Ferrari's been interesting because they've had the trio again, engine unreliability showing up in weird places. They've had drivers making weird mistakes, and then finally they've had strategy errors. Now, for the Ferrari fans, they've been all over the place and crazy. I would admit I was on the Ferrari train early on this season until the wheels came off. But having said that, Ferrari has had a great season. They had a greatly improved season from last year. So this is the weird thing about Ferrari is that despite of all the problems that they had, they've improved from last year in terms of their performance.
Absolutely. And it's good to see Ferrari because Ferrari is Formula One. Formula One is Ferrari. They've been around since the birth of Formula One. And it's good to see them. Obviously, mistakes are made, but Ferrari are Ferrari. They're born and bled, and in their blood, of course, is motor racing. I'm sure they're going to bounce their way back. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in at the moment on the free practice 3, the final practice session of the season. They're going to have the top guns in here. We've seen some of the young guns coming through from Formula 2 and all that as Hamilton goes fastest of them all at the moment, and a lap going even quicker. George Russell's going to try to sneak this one away, of course, into battle between those two teammates. Sebastian's on the Vettel saying smoke coming out of the back of his front left, locking up his brakes for his final time. That Sebastian Vettel may be talking about his front left brake locking up a little bit. And that's actually something interesting. And maybe tuning, of course, to Racing Statistics, hit the join button, hit the like button, because we'll talk it to our fantastic team at the production team at Racing Statistics. I think this would be a good little tournament that we can do, right? Put a poll up before we start next season. Let's go to everybody can vote and lock their votes in as to the top 10 teams for next season as who they expect to win the constructors, as Alonso goes pretty quick there for the first sector. And maybe quickest for the second sector. Alonso may be on top of the time shoots once again in free practice, doing what Alonso does best. But when it comes to qualifying or race day, not sure. But yeah, anyway, guys, exciting things to come and exciting things to end the final free practice session. Well, mate, you are a wealth of knowledge, aren't you, my friend there, Grash?
Thank you very much. So normally right now, Verstappen is in the pits. It's not set a time. Norris, Tsunoda, and Latifi are on their outlaps right now. There are only 3 who are on an outlap right now. Only one else in pits right now is Sainz, and Leclerc. So Ferrari's in the pits in their pits at the moment, and Verstappen's in the pit. We have Alonso have just said he basically did a sector 1. Russell's in P6 right now with a new time of 126.518. There's an improvement, and Gasly improved down P14 with a 127.686. And we have a yellow flag. And what is the cause of this?
Well, that's a great question, actually.
I'm
so used to
it's in sector 3.
Yellow flag, as in people move. Yeah, I'm so used to people just moving out of the way, of course, causing a yellow flag. I'm not quite sure, but maybe I'll tell you what. Jose out there is probably going to know exactly what's going well. Jose Martinez. Jose and I go way back, mate. He knows exactly what is going on.
So we had a yellow flag. It was in sector 3, but the track has gone back to green conditions. So it must have someone has gone off the track and came back on or something, or was stopped for a moment and has continued. I haven't gotten a replay yet of what exactly just happened, what caused that.
Ask Jose. He knows. He said somebody just went wide because the yellow. I trust in Jose, my friend. He's supported Racing Statistics for a long, long time right now. Thank you very much. Now, some of the drivers are supporting a black band around their arms. Do you know who we are in honor there, who has recently passed away?
I don't know at the moment.
I'll have to ask Jose. I'm pretty sure Jose might know. Or anybody else out in the chat, of course. No, it's not just is for one of the Williams. Anyway, welcome, because this is what I love about racing statistics, my friend. I mean,
But-
any question I want to ever ask about Formula One, the chat knows the answer.
Yeah, the chat. You know, I that was one of the things that kept me here and among the community here is that we guys just know everything. If there was a question, if I ever had a question, people knew and answered it. If people had questions, I was able to answer them as well. And it was a great giving back with everyone in the community. Again, right now we're coming to about 25 minutes has passed in the session so far. If you guys haven't liked or liked this video, do so now. It get us more, bring more people into the community. That way, it'll give us big help with that YouTube logarithm. If you haven't subscribed yet, if you like what you see, come on, my guys, come subscribe. If you hit the bell, you'll get notified when we go live. Again, for this season, we will again go live again with qualification later this afternoon, and then, or this morning for me, and then we'll be live tomorrow for the race itself. And then finally, if you are really want to support the channel, come join the channel. You get several perks, like for example, like Jose Martinez in chat right now. He's got a little badge next to his name, and that indicates that he's joined the channel itself. And you get your green, you show up nicely in chat. The other benefit of being the channel is you get several special emotes that are unique to this channel. My favorite being the box emote. And in chat, if those are watching chat right now, you can see that I'm spamming the box emote right now. And
I wanted the emote for the word that the Formula One drivers use a lot, of course, which is like, shut the I know what I'm doing. Like, isn't that what usually we can't repeat on air? But
no, that's
Formula
just
One
Kimmy.
drivers, of course, driving at 200 miles an hour.
But that's
no, it's all drivers, mate. They use that word a lot, and of course we won't use it. Of course, we're too polite for that. But we're not driving our pants off, are we? In high-speed situations, battling for a championship.
Having said that, Racing Statistics does have a merch marketplace, and one of the items in the marketplace is the box emote with on a mug. I'm hoping I put that on my wish list for family to nudge somebody like, could you get that for me? But that's definitely something that we come back next year. If I don't get it for Christmas, I'll be buying it myself for Christmas.
Well, Santa Claus maybe come and deliver coal or oil or a Formula One car in your stockings this evening, my friend. Perez has definitely had Santa Claus visiting Mexico, and he's got the top of the timesheets at the moment once again by about 2/10. But it's practice session, and we're just looking at the rest of the Centauri. They're not gladiators anymore, my friend. They've been promoted to Centaurians, of course. Ooh. And guess what? One Centaurian, the world championship, the double-time world champion, at the moment, with all the conspiracy theories and all that sort of stuff surrounding him, one thing he cannot deny, he's won many races, and he's had a record-breaking racing season. Max Verstappen on an outlap for the very first time, the only man not setting a time, currently running in P20 around Abu Dhabi for the final practice session.
As that happens, Gasly just came into the pits. It looks like his left front tire, there's either damage or something was going on, but it was smoking as he came into the pits. So there's something going on with damage for Gasly. It looks like a part of his car is on the track on curbs. So that not going to bring a yellow flag for that apparently, but it is a track hazard. Someone's asking what happened to Max. Nothing has happened to Max except he's just getting out on track halfway through the session.
Yeah, there's no animals and all sorts of crazy things running across the.
Okay. It is now a red flag. So what happened is that Gasly went over the curbs. I'm not sure which turn that is. But when he went over it, part of his car. Oh wow, he was really smoking. Part of the car let go. Oh, so what we're seeing is there's that new wheel.
Front left, right? Front right. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a covering on the wheel to help reduce basically to help reduce airflow. And we are in a red flag situation now. I know we're waiting for that to
Okay,
update.
is it just airflow? Because one thing, sorry to cut you off, but one thing lately in safety, I remember back in the day as well too, because I've been in a couple of Formula One GPs, and sadly one of the marshals had lost their life when one of the wheels came off and killed a marshal back in Albert Park many years ago. And Formula One worked on that situation, of course, in honor of that marshal, and made those tear off, the connection from the wheel to make sure the wheel never dislodges from the car itself. And that's been occurring brilliantly over the years and years and years. But what's actually occurred recently, of course, is you've seen the actual tire come off the carcass of the rim. And we've seen that recently in Formula One. Is that one of those changes? Is that one of those reasons as to what is occurring recently? Because, the tire by itself cruising down the track is fine if it's in the boundaries, but if it goes over a fence and happens to hurt one of the marshals or somebody that's very dangerous, is that something that Formula One's working on? Because I'm scared when bits and pieces of cars are flying all over the place.
Well,
we saw that in recent events.
I mean, you talked about like in the recent advances with the car. If something were to happen, the car is designed to basically collapse upon itself in a safe way. And
Not
to
the car,
hold.
sorry. I'm talking about the bits and pieces that fall off the car.
Oh, I mean those are all
For
carbon
the
fiber.
safety of the marshals in the audience. Yeah,
I mean,
but remember that was the little winglet at the we're watching replays of Pierre Gasly. There's a wing. It snapped the winglet. You all know in F1 2022 there's a winglet that goes over the front wing, and I think he hit the carbon fiber of the damage before there. That snapped that winglet. It went flying. Everybody's okay. Everybody's safe. Thankfully, no marshals are hurt. All that is being picked up, but they red flagged it for that situation. Caused a front right tire puncture for the AlphaTauri garage at the moment, and they're all just covering it as they repair that. Once again, looking at the safety, and the safety of not just the drivers, but the marshals and everybody else, because bits and pieces can fly over fences, remember, into all the fantastic fans that are sitting around these tracks as they just sell out stadiums on stadiums and stadiums
So
this year in
two
Formula One.
things in that regards to safety. So for someone in the fan, you are basically behind a fence, a safety fence, and that is to catch those big things. But there is a certain amount of risk, and this is if you were to say go to like a baseball game here in the United States. There's a certain amount of risk of just being in the stands that you accept because you're in the stands. That there is a potential of something that could a piece of the car could fly up over the fence and hit you, and that is rare, very rare, particularly with F1. It would be very rare because they've got the track again. It's not, you're not just right up next to the track. There's like a barrier between you and the track, and then there is another section beyond that, and then where you might be sitting. So the potential for it to fly and hit you is very, very rare. We've gone to a green flag, and I can see right now that Ferrari is the first two on track right now. Looks like Verstappen
It's a
and
busy
Tsunoda
track
are
as well,
coming
too.
out.
I'm seeing traffic. You're right. Yeah, of course, safety's first. So Formula One, think about safety, because we go back to that controversy, of course, between what happened last year with all the situation. But Formula One's always thinking about safety. Think about the fans, of course. And it only takes one fan or one marshal to get unfortunately seriously injured in a modern day motorsport, and they can change the rules of motor racing. But for now, as you said, it's always dangerous. Hopefully, it's safe for everybody else. But we are down to 20 minutes to change. The final time, for the very last time, for the free practice session here in Formula One 2022.
So a question in chat: why Verstappen no time? So Verstappen has not been able to set. He came out about 5 minutes ago, and did his first out lap. But when he would do his next lap, that would have been a flying lap to set time. Gasly basically had his incident on track that forced the red flag. So he has not had a chance to actually do an actual lap for time, and that's why he hasn't set a time yet. Lando Norris, he's complaining about how Hamilton overtook several people well under the red flag. And that is he was on his flying lap when he was doing that. So that's something that we may see something happen. Archon complaining.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Max Verstappen at the moment is on a flying lap. Now he's about 68 thousandths of a second down the first sector, but he's flying. The only thing Max Verstappen right now can do is all the controversies and all the issues and Twitter and all that sort of stuff that's blown up recently about his driving performance or about his teammanship. All that man can do right now is set a statement, and I'd set a statement in free practice 3 and say, Max is here, and he's still a Formula 1 driver. He's still the quickest Formula 1 driver, denying all the controversies and everything that's going on. You won a championship by your pure performance, and the only way to show your pure performance right now is to put that car on the top of the timesheets, even in practice. And I tell you what, Hamilton's trying to respond to that one, but I say Max Verstappen about 2/10 down in the middle sector is only his first real flying lap at the moment. Max time. Let's see where we can put that car on the top of the timesheets.
In the meanwhile, we just got from race control that Hamilton will be investigated for the turn 5. It was around turn 5 where he passed people under the red flag. So that will be investigated. That we know now. It will probably, given how things have been going with the FIA, now we'll probably find out about it after this session is done, going into hopefully qualification. That's the hope here. Worst case scenario, we'll find out after qualification, and that's very possible given how the FBI has been working. So far, Verstappen has just set his first time, a 1:26.004. Perez had P1 previously in the fastest lap, but that has now been replaced by Hamilton. He did his fastest sector 3, fastest lap on the track with a 1:25.824.
Yeah, Hamilton did on a soft spot. You got to remember, Perez did on the mediums. So Perez showing some pace, of course. Verstappen only putting one real flying lap in. Hamilton versus Verstappen. This is now getting personal towards the end of the championship. The championship's being wrapped up, of course, as we're looking at everybody on the top of the dome there of the Ferrari world. And if you get a chance to go to Abu Dhabi, of course, that's a fantastic place to visit a Ferrari memorabilia. And, of course, that roller coaster. Whew, that'll put you in basically a starting of a Formula 1 car as you go down into turn 1 or turn 3 on a roller coaster ride. But it is now Mercedes versus the Ferraris and versus the Red Bulls. Who's going to secure that? This is now bragging rights. So I have to say, they're doing it with 22 minutes and change. It doesn't matter. It's not going to get you any points. It's not a qualifying. But this is now going to come down to these drivers just personally showing off to see who's going to be the quickest man in the last practice session of Formula 1 2022. I guarantee you they are out for each other, and it's going to be a showstorm. This is about as exciting as a qualifying session you're going to get without the troubles of if you do get that P1, P2, or P3.
So in chat, basically, they were asking again. So Hamilton and Verstappen were both on soft tires. Basically, Hamilton is about a quarter of a second faster, 0.2025 in that range between the difference in time. So that's from chat. Looking for also right now. We were talking about safety. One of the things that has happened is that the Formula 1 committee met for the final time, I believe, yesterday. So they basically review regulatory procedures, wet racing procedures. They were looking at weather racing, technical and financial regulations that were under discussion. And one of the things that the whole will be strengthened for 2023-2024. There's a part of a package of minor amendments to the technical and financial regulations for 2024, and it comes after a review of Zhou's crash at Silverstone, where he flipped upside. If you guys remember, he flipped upside down, slid, and then bounced into a barrier. But during that process, the roll hoop, part of the roll hoop broke off, and so because of and it performed as it was intended to do, but it did never intended to take the strength of the hit that Zhao when he flipped over. It came with a stronger hit than they ever expected. So they're going to increase again. I believe it has to be able to take a 15G hit, like Zhao did. How Zhou flipped over in Silverstone. Other things they looked at is they looked at simplifying part framing rules for the sprint for split weekends, because there were things going on because the cars go into park framing on Friday rather than as of Saturday. So there's a lot of requests going on because they're going from qualification to the sprint race. One of the other interesting things is that they looked at, they basically punted down any final discussions on roofing tire blankets in 2024. That won't be made until 2023. And then the other big two things that they talked about was basically they were looking for a DSRS change. So basically right now, it's like 3 laps before they enable DRS. And they're looking to reduce that down to just 2 for the sprint races next year, with looking at how that performed, how that affected things, to potentially roll that out into 2024. And then finally, the last thing that they were looking at is in terms of wet weather, and they're looking to basically add what they call basically a standard bodywork kit, and that would be something that would go onto the car during wet weather. So it wouldn't be on the car here now in dry conditions, is how I understand it. And they're looking to basically use that to suppress tire spray from the car, so we can do more racings. We can race with more water on the track. Again, this was only the initial presentation, and there'll be updates on this in 2023. So there's something that they are looking at in terms of safety, performance. Again, with the tire spray reduced, that would improve, safety as well. And that's something that, as things happen, the FIA and F1 do. Like when something happens, they take stock of what happened and they learn from it. Again, Joe, this year, having flipped over, they learned a lot from that. When Roman Grosjean went into the barrier and his car basically broke in half into a flame, they learned things from that. One of the things that happened last year is that the gloves, one of the points of that they could have improved on was in the gloves itself. And everyone got now fire safety, higher fire safety gloves that were on par with the rest of their suits.
You're right, and on top of it, like some severe burns to his hands, and the reason why Roman Grosjean actually likes to enjoy the IndyCar series as well too is he lives in Florida, and South Florida, and the reason why he also says that when you do get so severe burns on your hands and stuff, that the climate changes things, and the cold climate's really upset the skin and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, it's small things to really negotiate the fact that of course you have a wife, you have kids, you still see them every day, and you look at that and go, that's the worst of that scenario situation where I could have been dead. You take
We've
that
got
one any day of the week.
We've got some times on the board we need to call out. So Russell just took a P1,
Absolutely,
125.395. Verstappen was in P1 for a little bit for the 125.618. Perez is on the board with new improved time with a 125.861. Albon and Alonso, P5, P6 respectively, 126.051, and then Alonso only 0.02 slower than him for P6. So these are the new times that just got put onto the board. Again, Verstappen was P1 until Russell just took it from him, going about a quarter of a second faster than him. Again, again, they're now all but Mercedes and Red Bull fighting with each other. Ferrari right now P7, P8 on the board.
Yeah, Grash, I'm telling you, this is a warm-up situation. Just watching George Russell at the moment making a little bit of a mistake there coming out of the final turn, I believe. But either way, I can guarantee you right now, These cars are geared up for a potential showdown of the qualifying. This is a preview. This is a dress rehearsal of the qualifying coming up soon. And I'll tell you what, they're all going to battle out tooth and nail. Russell, Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez. Who else? Is there anybody? The Ferraris, are they even going to come to the showdown at the moment? Because it looks like a Red Bull versus Merc battle. And that is going to be a preview of your qualifying because they're starting to tune those cars. They're starting to take the gas out of the tank, starting to put the tires on there, starting to find the gaps there with the engineers, and starting to give you a preview of what is going to come for the final qualifying session coming up soon after this practice session.
What's interesting right now is that Alpine is right now P6, P8. Ricardo just jumping up to a P5, just jumping those guys down with a 125.90. So we've got, we've the top four. We've got Mercs and Red Bull, a repeat of last year going on right now. Ferrari's now, P8, P10, but we've got a smorgasbord of other teams jumping in. Ricardo showing his performance right now. And this is what, if McLaren is going to overtake Alpine, this is the performance they need. They need more of that performance. Hamilton just jumped to a P1 with a 125.22, so he's gone a 1.7 faster than his teammate, approximately 1.7. He had a Sector 3 fastest time. Perez right now with a fast Sector 1, Sector 2, so he's on track to maybe jump up. We'll see in one moment.
Couple purples jumping from Perez. Seems to be pretty good. Purple means go. Purple means fast. Perez needs to put a little bit of a statement down against the Verstappen statement recently. And I'd say Perez will be on the top of the timesheets. Bang, bingo, 124.9. The first and only man currently at the moment in free practice to set the 124s.
Hamilton just improved his time to a 120.22. Norris jumped up to a P4 with a 125.518. Let's see who else. Bottas at P10 right now, 126.198. And Magnussen is a P12, 126.356. Zhou has improved now at P18 and 126.796. This is his first time at this track, so it's not too understandable that he's trying to pull. He's down at the bottom, improve, learning this track as we speak at the moment.
We're speaking at the moment. If anyone wants to speak, if you've supported Racing Statistics all season long, please help us supporting. There is goodies to come in the future. We saw it earlier, didn't we, in the Where You Are in the World graphics. And I had the big shout out there, of course, Racing Statistics. Thank you very much for allowing me to cast some of these events all season long. And even getting to meet a great caster and F1 database of knowledge with you in the booth. Give us a thumbs up, please, and hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying it. We'll do our best. We don't necessarily can provide you the pictures and stuff like that, like Crofty and Martin Brundle can, but Crofty and Martin Brundle can't answer your questions out in the chat, and we can certainly, and we always will answer your questions. It's been a blast, and hey, it's still going to continue, of course. We still have, we are qualifying, we had the final race. And show your love for the community. Give us a big thumbs up and a heart because I love you guys. And I really do, because anytime I doubt any knowledge of F1, I just go straight to the chat and I guarantee you there's 1,000 people that know exactly what is going on in Formula One.
So a correction from chat on me. Zhou has been here before because he's been in, because F2 does race here. Again, my specifically, I was not thinking of F2 when I was talking about Zhou. I think because of the difference between the cars, I'm looking at Zhou only in respect of this is his first time on this track in an F1 car. But you are correct; he has been here before in F2. So I want to thank chat for correcting me on that point alone. We had just had Vettel.
The chat knows. They know.
Chat knows. Yeah. Vettel just jumped to P7 with a
statistics, mate.
Yeah. Again, we just got on the timing board right now. We got Vettel in P6, 127, and Ocon at 9, 126.073. Ferrari now dropping to P11, P14. One of the interesting last fights that are still in play right now is Leclerc and Perez. They're even at 120 each. Ferrari's not looking like they have pace Ferrari does not look like they're going to qualify well.
It's
I mean,
scary, isn't it?
it's
12 and
crazy.
14 at the moment, and but then
Yeah, it's very. I mean, there's 10 minutes left. There may be, I mean, they may be coming out on track in a little bit and do some flying laps, but they have not looked good this weekend. In terms of again,
it's a
in
little bit
terms
sad,
of
isn't it? Considering if you,
in terms of like again, we're in relationship to Red Bull and Mercedes. Even still, like right now, let's look at we've got McLaren P4, P6 in the mix right now up there, and so it's one of those interesting questions on the board. Are they gonna show up? New poll just brought up by Racing Statistics teammate battle. Who have more points of Abu Dhabi will be Alonso or Ocon? And I'm gonna say I think
question.
Ocon.
And now
I'm gonna go with Ocon
yeah.
on that one. I'll be quite honest. I have a
You can't
feeling
bias
that
it where you're commentating at the moment. Max
Oh.
Verstappen is going to be biasing his way around the track at the moment, setting many purple sectors. He's got a fantastic sector one, not the quickest of all, but Verstappen is back in town at the moment. He does not want to have Mr. Carlos Perez in the top of the timesheets. Verstappen wants to be sealing the deal here. Remember, I'm telling you, this is a little bit of a dress rehearsal preview to a super qualifying session you're going to have. The best way to represent it, they low gas, the soft tires, Verstappen time. Can he deny his teammate the top of the timesheets for the final time of free practice 3?
Verstappen coming up the line. He has he's 0.183 slower in sector 2, so he's got purple sector 1, green sector 2. We'll see how he performs in this last section. He's going to come to the line in about 20 seconds. My stream right now following Verstappen around the track. He's in the hotel section right now. Gone under the bridge, and he's now coming across. Coming to that last turn.
P2 denied. And Perez is kind of responding, but yeah, that's it is what it is. He didn't quite get it done there. He's about 1/10 off. You know how furious Max will be in that helmet. He knows. He's like, don't let Perez is now sending middle purple sectors. But where did Verstappen make a mistake? I did a lockup. No, it's not. He did not quite get the power down around a little bit wide as he goes down the second DRS straight, and he's on the radio at the moment chatting to his teammates. Welcome everybody. I'm glad you are excited to have me. I'm excited for the final time casting here for the Racing Statistics alongside a legend himself, one of the first legends, of the man that knows his statistics. Perez might go even quicker right now to respond to a Max making a mistake, which is not a very a repeated occasion for Mr. Max Verstappen, the double-time world champion.
Yeah, so right now, Perez has just set
how the Mercedes going to respond, mate?
Well, Perez just set a new fastest sector 2.
How the Merc's going to respond, but that's the key, isn't it? It's not just a Merc's trying to beat the Red Bulls. It's whether or not Hamilton wants to beat his teammate and not deny Russell's recent race win momentum going into next season. Of course, Hamilton does not want Russell to beat him, doesn't it, for the final race of the season? Hamilton wants to remember everybody about Hammer time. Remember? Hey, I've won 7 world championships before. Remember me? He wants to deny George Russell this. This is a showdown of all showdowns with 6 minutes to go of the final free practice session.
You are watching the Race Statistics YouTube channel. This is Grash talking with you guys right now. I'm with Biggles right now on commentary, and we're in the last 6 minutes of free practice 3. And right now we're getting a dueling battle between Red Bull and Mercedes, and between their teammates and them. Who's going to go fastest at the end of this? Notably, P5, P6 for McLaren, with Norris going P5, Ricardo P6. Only a 0.4 difference between them two in their fastest lap. And that's important because Albon is down in P8 and Alonso is down in P10. They're the two teams battling out for P4 right now. If this is the performance that Norris and Ricardo are bringing, we could see them overtake Alpine, and that would be a huge. The only bigger thing would be Mercedes overtaking Ferrari. So this is a day where we could see, tomorrow is a day where you could see several upsets, changes in the standings, and that's money, it's points, it's prestige. Again, down below, we've got from P6, P8 down. We've got teams only within 20 points of each other. So if things were to happen and teams picked up big points, that the constructor standings as they stand right now would be upended in huge ways, and that would have big implications going into next year, particularly for those smaller teams like Haas, for Alfa Romeo. They're not at the cost cap. So if they get more money, it's more money they'll be able to spend next year.
Hey, money's good. I'll take money any day of the week, of course, but big problems at the moment, isn't it? Carlos Sainz put in a mighty third sector and barely scraped in P6, just ahead of Leclerc. So Ferrari are struggling at the moment. It's interesting to see whether or not this three-way battle at the top, that's usually, of course, definitely Red Bull, Red Bull, usually Ferrari and Mercedes. Now it's a Red Bull, Mercedes, and perhaps McLaren, because look at that. Norris and Ricciardo are just in between the Ferraris. And that was a mighty, mighty third sector there from Carlos Sainz there, because he set a couple of mini purple sectors, but still only squeezed in the P6. I have to say, it's going to be a Red Bull versus Mercedes fight for the potential what's upcoming for the qualifying.
Notably, again, we're talking about Ferrari. Sainz and Leclerc are 6 and 7. Sainz only 1/1000th of a second faster than his teammate. That is burning. It has to burn Leclerc. That's got to be burning a hole in him. Sainz went just that much faster than him. And the fact, we're looking at it, they're 0.65, almost 0.65 slower than Perez, and so there's over half a second there on track that they're not getting. So that is something that's crazy at the moment. We're asking right now.
And what's crazy at the moment is that Perez is in the pit lane. Verstappen, we know that the Ferraris are coming back in, and will they slap on a set of fresh softs there? And once again, I think this is bragging rights right now for the free practice session, just to try to you build psychological games, don't you, going into qualifying coming up soon now. You want to just put your car on the top of the timesheets, even though it's free practice 3, you don't get any points, but you want to kind of set a statement, don't you, going into qualifying, so that the drivers sit there go, why are they so quick? And they're analyzing all that data and trying to figure out that. And then while they're doing that, you're going even quicker as the driver that set that statement. Now, Perez is in the pit lane. Verstappen's out. Charles Leclerc gone back in there. He's starting immediately back in the pit. He's not going in the garage. He's going to put some fresh boots on. He wants to set a fantastic statement there for the Ferraris. He knows at the moment Ferraris are down a little bit. Hamilton's in the pit lane. Russell's in the pit lane. And, well, I'll tell you what, the Ferraris are back out. Carlos and Leclerc are going back out. I expect everybody to be back out. 2 minutes and change to go for the final free practice session of the year. Abu Dhabi time. Welcome to Racing Statistics.
As we sit right now, when we look at the fight between McLaren and Alpine, right now, if we were taking a look at what we're right now, Norris is in P5, Ricciardo's in P8. That is about 11 points. That's not enough to push them ahead of Alpine. But having said that, Alpine is 11 and 12. They're outside of the points right now. So that's something to, these are things to put a pin on and to see if this is a trend going into qualification into the race.
Graphics that my guys might see during the track dominance graphics. I've never seen that before in my past. That's something we need to. Well, obviously, we'll talk to the powers that be here at Racing Statistics about track dominance graphics. I like that. Who dominates what sectors you dominate? It looks like this is obviously a track that's
They've broken that graphic down, not into just by sectors, but from turn to turn. So that's interesting. So like coming around into the finish line, Verstappen had dominance. He was around from sector 7, turn 7, into turn 8 into the straight for 9 was Verstappen, but Perez on most of the curves otherwise.
Interesting. So that's downforce, of course. Straight line speeds, I don't have that information for you right now. You know what? I don't need that information because I go to the chat of racing statistics and they're going to tell me exactly what the high speed straight line speed will be. Who was the quickest with just under 1 minute remaining? And I'll tell you what, Perez in the garage, both the Mercs in the garage. Verstappen wants to set a statement right now. Can the Ferraris do something about their, well, you'd have to say P6 and P7 isn't the best. Once again, it's practice, but hey, practice makes perfect. But look at the rest of the battles that you'd mentioned. That's key performance as the constructors battles that we're going to have very, very soon. Albon on a flying lap. Go ahead.
Several people are coming on to an outlet right now with so little left. It is more basically them coming out to come around, be on the track so they can do practice at this point. Like Norris, Ricardo, both of the Alpines, both of the Haas's, the Alfa Romeos are on outlaps, right? And this is so that they can be out on track and so they can do practice starts after the session.
They're
ends.
all on outlaps. Sorry to cut you off. Perez is on a lap. Hamilton's on a lap. Russell's on a lap. They caught me off napping at the moment, mate. You don't call it napping, isn't it? You're right. So this is it. Showtime. Last across the line could be the very quickest. I'm excited. Are you not excited, mate?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, as it is right now, Stroll, Zhou, Alonso, they're all finished. So the checker flag is out right now. Albon right now with a flying lap. He is in the third sector right now. Coming to the line, he will be several seconds slower, 2.148 seconds slower than Perez, but in 10th position.
But I'm telling you right now, this is a showdown. Because they're now out for this little big gun moment here. This is a showdown for your qualifying. These drivers want to prove they know it's the last time it's your practice session.
Oh no, that we're already past the point of no return for any setting times. Basically, they're all out on track right now, so that you can do practice starts at now that the time is expired. Ooh, Albon, going over the same.
You are correct. Yeah.
Oh wow, Albon just lost a piece of his vehicle. At turn 5, same spot, same curb.
It's not that rough too, looking at pictures in slow motion. It just looks like a little bit of rally pieces that were perhaps not duct taped enough. Yeah. Will that red flag it? I hope not, because once again, they do practice restarts.
That's a good question. How they're going to
I was excited. I thought it was going to be a showdown for the final lap, but you'll have to wait for that one during the qualifying session coming up. Yeah. I don't even know what that piece is, mate, but I'll tell you what, I'll take that in my suitcase back and put that on my wall there for a souvenir. But yeah, practice session's over. And Sergio Perez will be the man on the top step of that one, at least, to set the bragging rights to Max Verstappen and say, we all know the issues that go on between those two drivers at the moment. And I think I have to say the best way that Perez could prove that statement would be to win this race. And the only way to do that is to get that car on pole, which will be coming up soon, of course, for racing statistics. Hit the like button and hit the bells, because that will be coming up shortly after this.
So, as things look for today, we will be back later in about, I would say, 3 hours for qualification. Rain will be doing that as well as the race later today. For those of you who are, again, we talked about F2. For those of you who are following along, what's going on in F2?
Right? Yeah.
So we've got in about 45 minutes, 50 minutes now. F2 will have the sprint race today. So that will happen in about, let's say, 45 minutes, 50 minutes from now. It will be, again, for those of you in the United States, that will be on ESPN3 only. So right now, asking for there may be a possibility we'll be here for F2. We'll see. But basically, the reason again why we're looking F2 is that we're looking at Logan Sargent. Right now, he needs to get points for his super license so that he needs 40 points to get to his super license. Basically, he needs to finish the season in F2 with being again 5th or 6th overall in the season. So that's something that we're looking at. And keeping a track of, because if he gets the 40 points, he'll have his super license. He will be racing on the grid next year. So that's why we're talking about F2 normally when we would not normally do so.
Yeah, don't you Don't you want a US driver on the grid again, mate? You are US, you're patriotic. Of course, America, we have 3 races next season. United States of America. Can you imagine hearing Logan around turn 1 and turn 2 in any of those US GP races? Can you imagine the 50,000 plus audience members screaming to hear a US driver on the grid?
That would be a huge step forward to have him on the grid, just for marketing purposes alone. Yeah, so that's something that it's again putting a pin on it for next year. Getting some replays on that.
It's been
turn
fantastic
5.
casting of you, my friend. Exactly.
Yeah, we're getting some replays on the
Real
F1
quick
stream.
there, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like
Add to
that
the
turn
chat
5
there,
is
guys,
dangerous.
asking. Oh, true. And I want to ask a question before I have to depart. And thank you very much. I'll be departing for the last time season. We'll leave it up to the powers that be, the fantastic casters that have casted all season long. Any questions you guys want to ask? Do it right now. We are all friendly and open, and we're going to have some great goodies coming up for next season, of course, but we still have the qualifying. We still have the race. Over to you, my friend, Mr. Grash. Any notes and stuff like that you want to bring for this?
Yeah, just to recap this session right now, we had Perez in first with a 124.982. He's the only one who got below into the 124s. Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell, P2, P3, 4, Norris, P5, and then finally Ferrari in P6, P7, Ricciardo, P8. So Vettel, shout out last race in P9 for this session. Again, Perez taking P1 in the 124s. If that's a statement for quali, I don't know what is. Again, we've been watching FP3. It's been interesting. Turn 5. This is probably one of the big stories that's going to come out of this session. Is turn 5 is dangerous and will cause damage to cars if you go over those in a bad way. We've had 2 cars damaged in this session. We'll know more in quality about what's going on. Again, after in about 50 minutes, we talked about F2, the sprint race. We've got at stake there super license points. Again, we're coming. F3 has ended, and want to thank you all for coming. If you haven't liked this channel, like the video already, you haven't subscribed, please do so before you do. If you want to get notification of when we go live again for the qualification, hit the bell, and we'll be seeing you guys soon. Thank you Dude Biggles. It's the first time streaming with you. It's been great, my friend.
Always great. A pleasure with you, mate. And more to come, of course, next season. Don't you forget, because if you did like our casting together, or if you didn't like it or not, it doesn't matter. There's more and plenty of other fantastic casters. Welcome along, Racing Statistics. And upcoming soon will be the final qualifying for the final race of the season in Abu Dhabi. Thank you very much. Good night. Take care and stay safe. Hit the notification bell. More action coming soon.